NM cable, often called Romex, has specific rules regarding its proximity to air handling spaces. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, dictates how this type of cable can be installed to ensure safety and prevent fire hazards. Let's clarify the regulations regarding running NM cable near air handling spaces, specifically within floor joists in a single-family dwelling. While NM cable cannot run parallel with air handling ducts or plenums within spaces like floor joists, it is permitted to pass through or perpendicular to such areas. This means that if the cable crosses the space containing the air handling system at a 90-degree angle, it generally complies with the code. Now, regarding the specific scenario of NM cable entering a space described above and exiting in another direction, such as up into an adjacent wall space, the answer is generally yes. This is permitted, provided certain conditions are met. The key is that the cable is not running parallel within the air handling space for an extended distance. If the NM cable enters the joist space, for example, and immediately turns upward to enter a wall cavity, this is typically acceptable. However, there are nuances to consider. Firstly, ensure that the NM cable is adequately supported and secured according to NEC guidelines. Cables must be supported at appropriate intervals to prevent strain on connections and to maintain their position. Secondly, be mindful of any local amendments to the NEC. Some jurisdictions may have stricter regulations regarding wiring in proximity to air handling systems. Always consult with your local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction, or OJ, to confirm compliance with local codes. Thirdly, avoid bundling NM cables excessively within the air handling space. Excessive bundling can impede heat dissipation and potentially create a fire hazard. If multiple cables need to pass through the space, spread them out or use cable ties to maintain separation. Fourthly, inspect the NM cable for any signs of damage before installation. Ensure the jacket is intact and there are no exposed conductors. Damaged cable should never be installed. Fifthly, consider using conduit or other protective measures if the NM cable is exposed to physical damage. In areas where the cable is vulnerable to being struck or damaged, enclosing it in conduit provides an additional layer of protection. Sixthly, be aware of any restrictions on the type of NM cable allowed in certain locations. For example, some jurisdictions may require the use of plenum-rated cable in air handling spaces. Standard NM cable is not plenum-rated and should not be used in these areas. Plenum-rated cables are specifically designed to minimize the release of harmful smoke and gases in the event of a fire. Seventhly, always de-energize the circuit before working on any electrical wiring. This is a critical safety precaution that can prevent electrical shock or electrocution. Eighthly, use appropriate tools and techniques for installing NM cable. Avoid damaging the cable during installation and ensure that all connections are properly tightened. Ninthly, double-check all wiring connections and cable routing before energizing the circuit. Verify that there are no loose connections or exposed conductors. Tenthly, label all circuits clearly and accurately. This will help to identify the circuit in the future and prevent accidental disconnections or incorrect wiring. In summary, while an NM cable cannot run parallel within air handling spaces, it can enter and exit such spaces in different directions provided it is properly supported, secured, and protected. Always consult with local electrical codes and inspectors to ensure compliance. The NEC provides detailed guidelines for electrical installations, and it is important to adhere to these guidelines to ensure safety and prevent fire hazards. Furthermore, consider the following aspects for clarity. Firstly, the definition of air handling space is crucial. Air handling spaces are areas specifically designed for the movement of air for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC, systems. This typically includes ducts, plenums, and other spaces used for air distribution. Secondly, the reason for the restriction on running NM cable parallel to air handling ducts is to prevent the spread of fire and smoke. In the event of a fire, the cable insulation can melt and release harmful gases, which can then be distributed throughout the building via the air handling system. Thirdly, the NEC provides specific requirements for the type of wiring methods allowed in air handling spaces. Typically, only plenum-rated cables or wiring in metal conduit are permitted in these areas. Fourthly, when an NM cable passes through an air handling space, it should be installed in a manner that minimizes its exposure to the airstream. This can be achieved by running the cable close to the joists or other structural members. Fifthly, consider the potential for condensation within the air handling space. Condensation can damage the NM cable and create a potential electrical hazard. If condensation is a concern, use a cable that is rated for wet locations or install the cable in a waterproof conduit. Sixthly, be aware of any restrictions on the use of NM cable in certain types of buildings. For example, some jurisdictions may not allow the use of NM cable in commercial buildings or multi-family dwellings. Seventhly, always obtain the necessary permits before starting any electrical work. This will ensure that the installation is inspected and approved by the local electrical authority. Eighthly, if you are unsure about any aspect of the electrical installation, consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician can provide expert advice and ensure that the work is done safely and correctly. Ninthly, remember that electrical codes are constantly evolving. It is important to stay up to date with the latest changes to the NEC and local codes. Tenthly, prioritize safety above all else. Electrical work can be dangerous, so it is important to take all necessary precautions to prevent accidents. In addition to the above points, let's delve into some specific scenarios and address common questions. Firstly, what if the NM cable needs to run a long distance within the floor joist space, but it is not directly parallel to an air duct? In this case, it is still generally advisable to avoid running the cable within the air handling space if possible. Consider routing the cable around the space or using a different wiring method, such as conduit. Secondly, what if the NM cable is installed in a manner that is technically compliant with the code, but it is still causing a problem, such as creating excessive heat or interfering with the airflow? In this case, it is important to address the problem, even if the installation is technically compliant. Consult with a qualified electrician or HVAC technician to find a solution. Thirdly, what if the air handling system is not ducted, but rather uses the floor joist space as a plenum? In this case, the entire floor joist space is considered an air handling space, and NM cable should not be run within it. Fourthly, what if the NM cable is installed in a concealed location, such as behind drywall or insulation? In this case, it is still important to ensure that the cable is properly supported and protected. The NEC provides specific requirements for concealed wiring installations. Fifthly, what if the NM cable is installed in a wet or damp location? In this case, use a cable that is rated for wet locations, such as UF cable. UF cable is specifically designed to withstand moisture and prevent corrosion. Sixthly, what if the NM cable is exposed to extreme temperatures? In this case, use a cable that is rated for the appropriate temperature range. The cable's temperature rating is typically printed on the cable jacket. Seventhly, what if the NM cable is installed in a corrosive environment? In this case, use a cable that is resistant to corrosion, such as MC cable with a PVC jacket. Eighthly, what if the NM cable is installed near electrical noise or interference? In this case, use a shielded cable such as MC cable with the metal jacket. The metal jacket helps to block out electrical noise and interference. Ninthly, what if the NM cable is installed in a high-traffic area? In this case, protect the cable from physical damage by installing it in conduit or using a cable protector. Tenthly, what if the NM cable is installed in a location where it is likely to be disturbed or damaged? In this case, consider using a more robust wiring method, such as EMT conduit. EMT conduit provides excellent protection against physical damage and is suitable for a wide range of applications. Remember, electrical safety is paramount. Always follow the NEC and local codes and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. By understanding the rules and regulations regarding NM cable routing near air handling spaces, you can ensure a safe and compliant electrical installation.